Hello, everyone out there in radio land, all across the land. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Throwback Thursdays with myself and the one and only
Nikki Clarke, hailing from Toronto, Canada. How you doing, Keith?
I'm doing wonderful. Thursday, we winding down on the week. How about yourself?
Thursday, yeah, it's getting closer to the weekend. So, yeah, my mood is picking up, definitely. Yeah, it's been a busy week. I had a taping last night, and it's like so many hours I need to recover because I put in so much, in the live productions. But I'm feeling great. I'm ready for another great episode. Got another hot show coming.
Yeah, that's what's up. So how was the show last night though? Was it okay?
It was fantastic. It was loaded of great guests. They've got amazing stories, and then I always like to put people on the spot. I like to see how people behave under pressure. So the spontaneous karaoke thing happened, and then it was magical. I truly believe that Toronto is a mecca for talent.
It is
unbelievable what people can surprise you with. I'm thinking I'm putting them on the spot, and they just completely shut down the show. They were amazing.
So when you say put them on the spot, they had no idea at first that you were going to call them up?
They had no clue what they were going to encounter. So we had some karaoke tracks, and we had lyrics printed out, and I just grabbed someone from the audience. I gave them a sheet of music, and I didn't know if they could sing. I didn't know if they could gargle. I don't know what kind of talent they had. And I said, okay, go for it. You got a minute. And they shut it down. Everyone was on their feet.
Oh, wow.
Surprised me. Yeah, so they got, prizes. They just walked away with, everything that I could give them, to thank them for what they did. Yeah. So that was fun.
That's real cool.
Yeah.
Talking, some I don't know, over here we've been dealing with that situation, obviously of, the murder police officers and, all these different types of things like that. And, which I'm assuming, I guess you guys have heard about as well. Well, apparently, what happened is, when all the protesting began, what happened was, the mayor of New York City spoke somewhat in favor of the protesters, but it wasn't even so much as in favor. People have the right to protest. It's a lawful thing to do. But so when the mayor basically just kind of expressed the fact that, hey, these people had a right to protest, they were upset, it's legal to do that. Apparently, all of the New York City police officers turned against him. So now, every time he's speaking or at an event, all of the police officers turn their backs towards the mayor now, which I think is, somewhat disrespectful. But the crazy part is it started at first, but now they just continue to always do it. It's just in the media they're calling it a overdrawn temper tantrum because they just won't stop doing it. Now here's the thing. It just so happens, okay, the mayor's, Caucasian and his wife happens to be black, okay?
Yes.
Now, here's the thing about it. So now they have started to pick on his wife, claiming that when she went to the funeral that she was wearing jeans, which I saw the pictures. She was dressed absolutely fine, and I don't think she was even wearing jeans. She's wearing a pantsuit, as a matter of fact. But now...
Right.
They are actually, the New York City police officers are now actually taking shots at their own mayor's wife and being really disrespectful.
Can they even do that?
Well, see, that's what's crazy about it. And so everybody in the media is like, well, listen, he's the mayor. He should stand up and fire all these people. Give them their pink slips.
I know.
Yeah, because that's...
I think that's a little bit too much power there. A little bit too much power. And I think what you had alluded to with the police officers turning their back on the mayor of New York, what had happened was he had spoken very candidly in an interview about having, conversation with his son, a parent to a son, about how he was fearful about, him being on the streets, and possibly being a target.
Oh, wow.
And how he felt, his sentiment as a parent. He wasn't saying anything he wasn't dogging out the New York police.
Right.
He was just sharing his feelings of fear, which is valid.
Absolutely.
I have the same fear. I have a son.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? but they took it the wrong way. It was misconstrued, and then this whole temper tantrum thing happened. So now they act out whenever, he publicly speaks. They're going to turn their back on him, but I don't think that's fair.
Right, and especially going to the point right, that was just rude in the first place, like you say. But now they're actually going after his wife, and they're making all kinds of statements that are getting publicized. And I said, wow, when
I think that's going a little bit too far.
Exactly. When it gets to that point, it's just out of this world. But also something else that's been an issue. Have you heard about the whole Tiger, the rapper, and the Kylie Kardashian or the Kylie Jenner relationship that's been going on for quite some time now?
I have not been following the Kardashians for a minute, no.
Well, I'll tell you,
what happened?
Here's the interesting thing. Okay, first of all, Kylie's 17. All right. In the U.S. and in certain states, and particularly the state they're in, 17 is not a consenting age of sexual activity. Okay, so right. Tiger's 25. So the thing is that apparently, supposedly, they're not doing anything. Okay.
Well, they're just holding hands. Right.
Right, exactly. So and don't get me wrong, they're both public figures, and not too many people, every now and then you hear that part of the story, but hey, who really cares? First of all, nobody's like in their business really that much. But there was this nonsense. Well, I thought it was nonsense because in the media about a day or two ago, this rumor started that she was pregnant, which I totally don't believe that at all.
Really?
Yeah. Now, for me, I consider that to be just something that, hey, they're just taking pot shots, and I don't believe that that's the case. He wouldn't be that foolish. Now, the thing is all of a sudden today, when I looked at some different headlines, apparently what they're saying that he said, which again, I can't say is true. I got to do some more research. They might be putting words in his mouth, but they're saying that he said, I think she would be a great mom, and if she was this and that and the third. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like, there's two sides to that. I kind of think that people, it's first of all, it's bad that you can't have a relationship without people being in your business when you're in the limelight. And then,
true.
Number two,
that's what you sign up for when you're a multimillionaire.
Yeah. And then number two, I think that it's wise for this guy to be careful, and mainly because of the limelight. Because look, if there is anything other than just being, going on other than just being friends or whatever, then a lot of people are going to make it really hard. Because what if people start paying attention to this type of nonsense? That's a hard pill to swallow. And you know how it is, everybody wants to date a Kardashian nowadays. So, but
they got bank.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to date the Kardashians? She's younger than he is, but she could
buy him,
take over to be a sugar mama.
Exactly.
Definitely, she's got money plus.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying, but you know what? Having a little taste of what goes on in the entertainment world, a lot of the information too is planted.
Right.
That's by celebrities. Right. So you don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
And any publicity, good or bad, is okay. In that respect, because it keeps them newsworthy and it keeps them getting paid.
Yeah, I say the same thing, because some of the stuff I just said to myself, I go, like when I read that thing about her being pregnant, I go, that's just ridiculous. That didn't even really kind of make any sense to me. The girl, she has an amazing future ahead of her, first of all. I can't even see her even bothering to go through that right now with so much going on. There's no way. And I just look at her and I think she's a little smarter than that. So, I don't know.
We shall see.
Yeah. And then one more. Bill Cosby.
One more? Oh, another nugget?
Yeah. Bill Cosby apparently.
Bill Cosby. Oh, he was here. He was in Ontario, actually in London.
I heard.
And did very well. Yeah, they really enjoyed him here. You know what? He's the Cosby. He's Mr. Huxtable. That's all I see him as. He's got that halo effect. He can't do any wrong.
Right. And in my eyes. And well-respected Felicia Rashad spoke out last week, or about 2 weeks ago. Okay. Yeah, Mrs. Claire Huxtable. She she spoke out and was pretty much saying that, look, I'm not downplaying any of these women's accusations or anything, but I've been around this man for a long time, and I have never seen
Right.
him act in such a fashion. And I kind of go with what Felicia says. She's she's well respected and has never had any bad media. And I also think to myself too, if he was going to try it on anybody, he probably would have tried it on her. So
She's a fine-looking woman. Why not? And they were close.
Right.
On set, so.
Right. So
If he was going to do something, wouldn't it be someone that he's acting with?
Right.
A lot of those Hollywood romances happen through close contact with their person that they're acting with. So
Exactly.
it makes sense. But I don't understand. Like, when did these accusations started to come about, and how far along ago was it? Because I think it was many years ago. Nothing recent, right?
Right. It was years ago. Well, you know what? Yeah, it was years ago. I believe that it came. Somebody said something, but that died down, and it never turned out to be anything.
Okay.
Well, the interesting part about this is I cannot remember this guy's name. Everybody knows his name. I can't remember. But here's the tricky part to this. There was a gentleman who not too long ago admitted to being a predator. He's on another show. I can't remember his name. It's a white guy. He's on a different show. A lot of people know who he is. Gosh, I wish I could think about it. I hear about him every day. He's still in the news for this. It was actually true that he was doing this. He was, being a predator. Well, what happened is, his wife is the one who actually leaked it out. And so now they're going through this big nasty divorce. As a matter of fact, over all their belongings. Well, here's the crazy part to this story. The story broke when, and then all of a sudden it died down, and that's all of a sudden when Bill Cosby's story started to take effect again. So it almost seems like they tried to take the heat off of the guy who really had been doing it and got caught admitting that he was doing it during therapy one day, and it seems like all of a sudden everybody tried to shift it towards that. Because now in the news, the guy who actually admitted to, and this guy's a big time guy too, and the crazy in the media, he's a television star. And the crazy part is nobody's talking about what he did on the predator side of things. They're only talking about the fact that him and his wife are being divorced and they bought it out. Nobody's focusing on the fact that he was doing this, and he was actually messing with, I think it was underage people. That's
really?
They
downplayed the whole thing.
They downplayed the whole thing, and then all of a sudden that's when they jumped on Bill Cosby. So I kind of think, in my opinion, I think they're trying to overshadow. They're using him to overshadow. And Janice Dickinson, you remember, not too long ago, came up with the story of what Bill Cosby did, but come to find out, she recanted her. It was brought out the other day that she actually wasn't telling the truth, because the book that she wrote years ago about being with Bill Cosby is not the same thing that she just said recently that he did. Yeah, so that's came out that her stories are clashing now.
Lots of scandals.
Oh man, all over the place.
All over the place.
No
lack of that.
What's going on in your up there though? Anything interesting or?
It's pretty much the same headlines that you're going through and experiencing. I mean, globally, I think people are still reacting from the attacks in France, Charlie Hebdo.
Yeah.
And it's rippled right through the world. So people are reeling from what happened, and I know
they're making a lot.
Don't know what to say.
They're talking about too. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about the fact that Nigeria is not getting as much exposure with that situation, and I keep hearing people going to the media saying, how come people are not protesting and doing all of the things?
I know.
Yeah.
Those children are still missing. Those girls are still gone. Why aren't people doing anything about it? And then something throws a shadow on that situation, and then we pay attention to things that are trivial. It's not making sense, and it's people are really becoming more and more outraged. So things have to change.
Yeah. It is what it is.
But it is what it is. But you know what? I'm still a reluctant optimist. I really think that good change is coming. And there's a movement of people who, want to affect change the right way. So,
I know.
But you know what? I'm excited about today's show because we have an incredible man who is a health crusader he has, taken this passion of his to change people's lives, to transform people. And I'm one of those people that he's working with, and he's done miracles for me in just a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And I'm really happy to have the co-founder of the Ikkuma Inc., Gary LeBlanc, on the show. We're going to be talking to him in a few minutes. And I have a great lineup. But it's what's it up today. Instead of, the typical R&B and, soul lineup, I put together some of the throwbacks of the rock songs that I listened to when I was younger, growing up in Montreal. Uh-huh. There was a station in Montreal called Chum FM, uh-huh. and it played some of the coolest rock. So I hope you like some of the things that I threw together.
Oh, okay.
And how about we give everybody a taste of what that is?
That sounds...
You'll see how eclectic my musical library is.
Oh, yeah, I'm all for it. That sounds like a great game plan, as a matter of fact. So
sounds like a great plan.
Like that was like a total different taste out there. So we have a special guest with us today, right?
We do. We have the very special co-founder of Ikkuma Inc., Gary LeBlanc, on the line. Gary, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're welcome.
Glad to have you, Gary.
You know what, Gary Keith has been helping me prepare for, this pageant that I was involved in, and we got together and kind of brainstormed what I needed, and Gary put me on an 8-week transformation.
Really?
And I had no idea what course of action was going to happen, but I just committed to do it. And yesterday, I was at the show and doing my thing, and I had literally people coming after me, one after the next, going, "What are you doing? You lost so much weight. Your face looks amazing." And I said, "Well, I'm not doing it alone. I'm being coached." Mm-hmm. And I have to say, thank you, Gary, again, because you have this knowledge, but you need someone to kind of kick you in the butt and tell it to you like it is. And Gary has a very cool, tough love approach to just telling you the truth.
Right.
And it really got me to the point where I needed to be. And I'm going to keep the transformation going because it's working. I feel great. Oh. And consequently looking great because I feel better, So, yeah.
So what is, are you going to let me know what the secret is, or how is this happening?
So, well, essentially with Nikki, me and Nikki were actually starting to speak over another opportunity, and we just got to talking, and I guess the secret formula is, there is no secret formula. It's just a matter of how you approach it. Okay. If we break it down simply into why things aren't necessarily working right now for society, and I hate to say that because it sounds so negative. I like to be more positive. Mm-hmm. But I guess on the positive side, all we need to do is really focus on the motivation and focus on the simplicity. The tough love approach that Nikki mentioned, it's more of a calling people on their excuses. There's always excuses, and I have to be careful. I don't know people's lives, and I never will. There's a million different reasons out there for people doing or not doing things, and I think when you break it down to making things as simple as possible with the foundation, and try to find that motivation, which is tough because everybody's different, then you really break through. And kind of with Nikki, and Nikki's been a great kind of protege as far as really implementing and the motivation behind it. It didn't take to get Nikki riled up for it. So kudos to you, Nikki. It had less to do with me and more to do with you.
Oh.
No, it's awesome. Now, Gary, can you tell us how you started Ikkuma? You have a really incredible story. What launched the Ikkuma journey for you?
Yeah, it's a fun story that comes from tragedy, which is essentially a lot of transformations come from tragedy. I would say about 7 years ago, I've always been in corporate. Just to give a little background for myself, I have an engineering and business background, and I've been essentially going through the paces through life, fairly successful at what I did on the corporate side, but not really motivated and questionably happy. I don't even really think that I knew what happiness was until I really started this journey. And it started when a friend of mine got diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma. It was a close friend of mine. And a lot of people go through different stages in their life, and there are different motivations for what they choose to do. And Brad, a good friend of mine, it struck a chord with me. It was a young person who stayed in shape and all of a sudden had this, death sentence essentially from the doctor. And him and I started researching, and to make a long story short, it became somewhat of a passion of mine. I've always been in health and wellness, but it truly struck me at the core, because I've always felt guilty for what I had as far as blessings. I feel I've had many blessings, and when Brad was stuck with this sentence, it was kind of up to us to kind of help him through it. And unfortunately, Brad passed away about 3 years after being diagnosed, but the passion stayed with me, and that's essentially when Ikkuma was founded. And me and my partner Brian, he was actually meditating, and he approached me one day knowing that I was going to write a book based on everything that I had learned in the previous few years. And he said, why don't we build a company around it, leveraging your skill set and your knowledge, and his skill set and his knowledge. And that's where Ikkuma came from, a very authentic place.
Okay. Now, so exactly what is Ikkuma?
Ikkuma actually means fire in Inuit.
Okay.
And it's an interesting story how we got the name. Me and my partner were basically brainstorming one night. We call it City Ranch. Mm-hmm. He has this room in his house, which is only about 10, 12 minutes from downtown, but it's surrounded by these massive trees, pretty much ancient trees. And it's a very, you're close to nature. It's really thought-provoking. And we essentially, linked the reverence of nature that's in the Inuit language, and it's a native Canadian language. We're proud Canadians, and it just fit really well. So it means fire in Inuit, and it's all about rejuvenation. Really, without fire, we wouldn't be here. So people always see fire stigmatized as something negative. We see it as extremely positive.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now,
the tips that you gave me, Gary, the transformational tips, really informative, really easy. They're really good, reminders to have. And then some of them were like, wow, I had no idea I was, hurting myself. And one of the things that you brought up was air fresheners in the house. I had no idea that they were so dangerous. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, that's a good one, because a lot of these companies get away from showing what's in their product. They call it proprietary formulas, and air fresheners is one category of product where they don't have to tell you their proprietary formula. Oh. Now, obviously, there are some chemicals that no products are allowed to have, but there are many chemicals that are still classified as carcinogens or have endocrine hormone disrupting effects that are still in products today. And when you look at air fresheners, how much more discretionary can you get? You're putting something that's making your house smell fresh, but it's chemical based. You could use essential oils. I find it one of the easiest things you could do. And if you're stuck in a car and you have an air freshener in the car, it's been shut all day. When you walk in that car and breathe that in, you know that it's something that you don't really need to have in your environment.
Right.
It's, I've said this 2 or 3 times. It is truly discretionary and an easy thing with great options out there. So that's just one example of a lot of these things where you just say, wow, it's kind of like an aha moment.
Okay. Now, so just for the people, just for everybody out there, all the listeners out there who might be wondering this question, when you speak of Ikkuma, is this a way to live? Is there something you can drink? Is it a health? Is it a thought process or a health meditation thing? Exactly what is it? What is it? Or how do you do it?
Yeah, so basically Ikkuma is the heart of everything we do. And it's essentially, what we're about is, if you were to break it down into layman's terms, we're a holistic company, based on giving people solutions to live to their superhuman potential. Oh. And those solutions could be our products. We have an organic line of beverages. We have an energy drink. We have a relaxation drink coming out. We have a brain drink coming out. We also have a line of supplements, which is organically based as well. We have a brain supplement out there called Ikkuma Limitless. But Ikkuma, the core of Ikkuma is all about that revitalization. Okay. It's all about, we call it an evolution of vitality, because living healthy today means something very different than living healthy 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. So what we want to do is we want to focus on content with our site. We want to focus on great products for our people. And what this is all going to boil into is something very exciting that's actually coming in the next few months. It's a segue from what Nikki went through, but it's called My Superhuman Project. Okay. And it's about helping people find their superhuman potential. And to your point, Keith, there's no easy solution out there, mm-hmm. but when you work on people's lifestyle, when you work on the process, you're going to get the results. And that's why we're here. Okay, yeah, so this is so it's basically a compilement of different ways to improve, like you say, just the lifestyle and revitalize yourself in general. Exactly. And we break it down into 7 dimensions. I won't get into all of them in detail, but there's nutrition, fitness, sleep, stress, toxins, brain health, and then making it work within your calendar. Oh. You know, a lot of people's issues is time. You know, people say they don't have enough time. They don't have enough time to work out. So we also focus on really making this work for the average person, because otherwise people aren't going to make those changes. We see it time and time again. The answers are in Google. The answers to everything are in Google. So why are we still seeing diseases like diabetes skyrocketing, obesity skyrocketing? It's because people aren't getting the information the way they need it, and it's not as simple as they need it. Okay. Right. And I think fear comes in, and maybe intimidation. You know, when they see certain things and they feel, okay, well, I can never look that way. I can never measure up. And then they don't bother, or they give up. They may try, and then they may set themselves up for failure because it's unrealistic goals that they're, you know, putting in front of them. So what you do is you break it down based on their individual needs. You know, you do a personal needs assessment, and then make it work for them, which is great. Exactly. It's kind of, you know, I make a very clear distinction about we focus on the process, not necessarily the result. Right. What I feel is if you're doing the right things, you're going to get to where you want to be. The reason we call it, and this is coming out in the next few months, again, we're really excited about it. The reason we call it My Superhuman Project is because it's exactly that, Nikki. It's relative to each person's situation. If you implement all these very doable lifestyle changes, you're going to get to your best place. It's not my best place. It's not a power lifter. It's not a ballerina. You're going to get to where your best potential lies. And that's what's exciting about it. And that's why we're excited about it. We're not going to alienate people by saying, check your weight, check your body mass index. I couldn't care less what that is. I know for a fact, if you implement the right things, you're going to be living the best life you can, regardless of what the end result is. Right. Absolutely. You know, and that kind of, you know what, that really matches up with the saying. You know, I usually try to have a motto every day. And that, you know, what you guys are saying actually matches up with that, because my motto for today was, you have to know where you're going before you decide who you're going to take with you. And so that actually matches up, and it is important with that you guys take time to utilize what each individual needs, because they have to find out what's best for them, as you say, before they worry about what other people are doing. So it's good that you break it down to each personal need like that. Exactly. And the point is, the way we have it set up, Keith, is we're not dictating what people have to do. Basically what happens is when you're taken through this assessment, which is going to be extremely simple, basically just checking boxes. As soon as you do this assessment, you're going to be taken to this dashboard where you're going to magically see in 7 dimensions the type of life you're living. And it's going to identify what you haven't implemented, that gap, that chasm between where you are and where your superhuman potential is. And it'll be up to the person to actually decide how aggressively they want to chase this. You know, so you're setting your own pace. There's a million workouts out there. There's a million ways to get so-called ripped. But honestly, it's more than that. We're talking about brain health. We're talking about toxins. You can't have a sound mind and body without tackling it from every dimension. I'm sick of hearing all these, you know, get in shape quick fixes by just focusing on fitness. Yes, fitness is important, but it's just one small aspect of it. And people are inundated with so much information. You know, I feel bad for people because honestly, how are people supposed to know when there's so many inputs with so little filtering?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can go to a health food store and you could probably get some supplements so that you can burn fat, but maybe you should deal with the issue for that person, maybe eating too many carbs or, you know, using food as a crutch. Maybe there's an emotional issue that they haven't identified, you know, and they need to deal with first. So I like how when you're going through the transformation, you identify all parts, the mind and body connection, because it works together. And you have to feel good from the inside in order to look good on the outside. That's what you need to work on first, and that's what I had to identify. It's a huge self-awareness piece in the superhuman thing. Would you say that's right, Gary?
Yeah, I totally agree, Nikki. And actually, that's a fantastic segue into what the whole point of it is. If I asked 7.5 billion people what they want in life, if I gave them a choice to be happy or sad, everybody would choose happiness. And that's the point. What we want to do, I mentioned 7 dimensions. Basically, we have the 7 dimensions that boil into the 8th dimension, which is happiness. And what we're saying is, look, your mind and body are your temple. And what we want to do, and in many religions, you look at ancient religions, the religions speak of taking care of your temple. Your body, your mind, that's your temple. So what we want to do is we want to give you the tools, simple tools to take care of your temple. And I guarantee once you get to that place, then you're in a position to truly be happy. Because to your point, Nikki, a lot of people have these crutches. You know, Jesus, I have crutches from my childhood. I had big ears. I got called Dumbo. I stuttered. I basically went to a speech therapist till I was 6. I was basically, I would say, till grade 5, the butt of most of the jokes. So I have my baggage too. People see me today and say, well, you know what, you seem to have your life together, you're in this, you're in that. I went through, my own little hell when I was a kid. So to your point, we all have our script. Mm-hmm. Now the point is, even with that script, if you take care of your temple, you're going to get to a place where you have that confidence, you have that self-awareness, and really that's what we're helping people with.
Exactly.
And it really starts there.
It does.
Well, it does, because honestly, Keith, before people even start this journey, if they psych themselves out before they even start, then you might as well give up right away. Napoleon Hill speaks of creative visualization and Think and Grow Rich. And it's essentially what we want to do, and what the tool will do is we want to create that vision for people. We want to give them the power, such a great level of personal integrity, that the power of intention is basically going to allow them to predict their future. We're giving them the fact that it's a process-based tool. People can decide. They can say today, I'm going to take this dimension from X to Y. Here are all the things I have to implement. I will do this, and that will be their future. Imagine if you could predict your lifestyle, your mind and body. You could predict your future. I think that's an extremely powerful tool that people could leverage.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. That's powerful.
And it gets down to, again, people's story is unique. So the tough part for us, and I rack my brain about it every night, is how are we going to motivate everybody to get started? I don't know about you, Keith. We've never met in person,
right,
but your motivation is going to be different than Nikki's. I had a great motivator. Unfortunately, the suffering that my friend went through motivated me to a point where I changed my life. But everybody has their own motivation. So that really plagues me on, are we going to be able to connect with everybody?
Well, yeah, and you know what, Gary, speaking about that and different motivations, even with myself, as all of us, as you spoke earlier, goals, I think goals for myself, it was just a realization of, look, how am I going to get to where I want to get to in life? Not simply just in the physical aspect, but you have to get your mind right. And as you guys talk about, it comes from everything to, listen, what am I going to ingest into my body? How am I going to look at, my social life and just dealing with people? And then it even breaks down to the toxins that you all talk about, because listen, if your body and your mind and your brain is not clear and free of these toxins, you can want to think clearly as much as you want, but you're not able. It's hard to get up in the morning if your body's not functioning. It's hard to think if your brain's not, getting the proper amount of oxygen. All of these different situations run hand in hand to create a result.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Keith. And I like to argue in extremes. And here's an example of what you just said. If I take arsenic right now, I know that I'll die.
Right.
But when people talk about, well, you know what, I just ate a bit of this, or I just breathed in a bit of this. Well, if that little amount of arsenic can kill you, why don't you believe that all these things that you're ingesting or putting on your body are having effect on your day-to-day life? I think most of us are actually walking around in a haze. We don't know what it feels like to be at our optimum, to be at our superhuman potential. And you know what? We use the word superhuman, Keith, because everybody has this potential. And as humans, and I hate to say this, but as a society, we're broken right now.
We are.
When you look at what's happening epidemiologically, we're broken. Nobody can say we aren't. So we've evolved to being human, but that's just not cutting it these days. So we want people to find their superhuman, which is above and beyond what we've come to get used to today. And to your point, it is everything. It's the simple solutions for toxins. We also talk about stress. You talk about peace of mind. We incorporate meditation. We incorporate surrounding yourself with positive people. Changing that script you have going through your head. Affirmations. We have an affirmation as part of our dashboard as well. People don't realize it, but your subconscious can be trained. And what we want to do is we want to create that situation, Nikki, such that people can actually retrain their wiring, rewire their brain, which has been proven, by the way, now with fMRIs. We can rewire our brains, and there's proven techniques on how to do that. So there's a method behind the madness.
There really is. And I was watching Bob Proctor yesterday, and he was talking about the paradigm, the conscious mind and the emotional mind, and how most of us operate from the emotional mind, and how many opportunities come to us through the conscious mind, the place where we should know better because that's where the intellect is, that's where we're educated, but because we're fearful, because we can't go past this wall of fear, we're terrified, we make wrong decisions based on emotion. And then he said, beyond this wall of fear is freedom. Once you can use most of your conscious mind, you can get to freedom. And I thought that was huge.
Yeah.
But like you said, there is a conditioning. There's a mental conditioning that we have to rewire ourselves from the patterns that were probably formulated from the time we were children.
Exactly, and these concepts have actually been around for decades, and they're spawning in different areas right now. But it gets down to when you wire your subconscious, when you create that situation such that your subconscious is actually feeding your conscious mind what it needs to do to achieve what you visualize, that's when you truly get results. And I don't care what your story is. I don't care what your script is. There is a way to rewire your brain. It's very, very uplifting, and it's something that I think now that it's been proven, people can truly embrace. And there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of tools out there to really make those changes for people. And you know me, Nikki. Trust me, I have a script in my head that it's a dark place sometimes, and I have to work and work and work. And the stress management piece for me, the meditating for me, that's tough stuff. The physical stuff is easy. The nutrition's easy. But you know what? My superhuman project is a project. I'm by no means... I haven't achieve my superhuman potential, and I'll probably be on this project for the next 30, 40 years. Mm-hmm. Hopefully another 120 years. But
right.
Yeah. Aren't we all working on it? I mean, we're all working on our superhuman, and that's what makes us human, because we're perfectly flawed. Yeah. But as long as we're aware and we just get started, that is the magical piece.
Right.
And a lot of people are just waiting, and they're waiting, and how much time can go by before they've lost 10 years on their life, making the same mistakes over and over again. So once you're conscious, I think you're on the right track. Mm-hmm. And like I said, yesterday was something that was an affirmation for me, which I had to share with you, Gary and Keith.
Yeah. When
people come up and they say things, because I have a script that runs through my head too that I have to cancel out or ignore, because it comes every now and then, and then someone says something completely different, like, you look really good, or your skin is amazing, and what are you doing? That's huge. And then when you can give that information that I've learned from someone like you, Gary, and share it with them, you're just passing on a really good legacy. So yeah, I'm just really happy to be a part of this movement.
Well, I appreciate Nikki. One of our partners, Rod, he was talking to me today about one of the tools we're going to incorporate, and it's the goal-setting tool. And Keith mentioned goals earlier. When you get those little accomplishments, those little celebrations, those goals that you can achieve in the short term, you really build on those. It's just like a snowball. And unfortunately, Nikki, to the point you made earlier, as Einstein defined insanity as, doing the same thing and expecting a different result. That's truly insanity. And it's sad. I find it sad for myself if I don't make these changes, because we only live once. So how are you going to choose to live? And I think if we can get rid of those scripts, if we can just make that decision to start, I would love to be the catalyst for that change. Ikkuma would love to be that catalyst. And I think if we can break down to making things simple for people, we can get there. And, it's my life and it's my passion. So we're going to be doing this until I'm, I don't know what age I'll be, but hopefully I'll be jumping around like a
grasshopper.
Yeah, exactly.
I predict it, yeah. Way into your hundreds for sure.
Right. Now, let me interject and ask this question, because, as you spoke about earlier, Gary, this, the temple and the mind, a lot of these teachings and sayings people have known, they've been around for years. But just in your studies and dealing with others, we all know this, but so many people hold on. As you guys spoke about scripts earlier, so many people hold on for a while, but then they're right back to the same regimen of before. Have you noticed anything that's predominant in most people that slows them down from following suit? Is it mostly stress? Is it what they eat in their intake? What seems to be people's biggest holdup? Or is it fear, as you said, Nikki?
I think fear is one component.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it gets down to people just aren't capable to visualize how amazing their lives can be and how attainable it is. People psych themselves out. And the problem is we keep on comparing ourselves to idealistic images of what it means to be healthy.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse for somebody than to start comparing what their future should or shouldn't look like, because their starting point is maybe a point where they say, this is too daunting. And, I have a beautiful family. I love my mom and dad and my brothers and sisters. And I've had conversations with a couple of them on things that I would like them to change. And they have their scripts as well, like people very close to me. And it gets frustrating. But typically, it's people don't think that the change is going to happen fast enough. People are weighing themselves all the time. They're assessing the results instead of just focusing on those small wins, those day-to-day wins. I break down the whole program is essentially 200 lifestyle changes. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't have to be a change. Many of these things you're probably doing already. But it's broken down into all these habits, all these lifestyle changes. And a habit they've proven on average takes about 55 to 59 days to actually be ingrained into your lifestyle, into your brain. So if people can just focus on those small wins, over time they're going to build, and these habits are going to become part of their lives. So I think what's happening is people are just, it's kind of like fishing, a 50-pound fish with an 8-pound test. You're tugging too hard. You got to really finesse this, and you really got to focus on the small wins. And, everybody's different. So hopefully we make an impact with this approach.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Now, where do people go for all the listeners out there? Where can they get involved with you guys' program?
So we have Ikkuma.com, IKKUMA.com. So we have our drinks, which are across Canada in major retailers. We have our supplement, which is online. And then we have the Life site, which is where all our content is. We have fantastic partners. We have fantastic blogs in each of these dimensions. And My Superhuman Project, what we've been talking about, that's actually being released April 1st. It's going to be a free tool for the public, and we have a corporate program as well. So, we're extremely excited about it. It's good for families. It's good for partners. We're going to incorporate a lot of goal setting, and all this is going to be through Ikkuma.com and also mysuperhumanproject.com. So that's where you can find us, and obviously you can find us on Facebook and on Twitter. I'm not entirely the most, entertaining person on Twitter. I'm still getting the hang of it. And I am on Instagram, but again, I'm not that exciting on Instagram either. I'm 43. The years have caught up to me, Keith. The years have caught up.
Look, we talk about that. We talk about that all the time. As a matter of fact, I go, and Nikki, I don't know if you go through it too, but I go through it all the time. Facebook is really where I'm at. I'm no good on Twitter and Instagram and things of that. I'm just not caught up with it. And we deal with social media, so it's just amazing that it's like that. But hey.
Okay, here, I'm going to drop something. I'm going to drop some knowledge on you.
Okay.
Hootsuite. Hootsuite
awesome,
is your social media management. You do everything one time, and it hits all the sites.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know nothing about that, Nikki. You've been holding out.
Hootsuite is an application. You download it. I believe it's free, and then you can upgrade and pay a little bit more. And what you do is you just put in your status or wherever you want to promote, and it goes to your Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all at once. So it cuts your time in half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and there's ways that you can measure to see how many likes you have. You want to see if you're productive or not in your social media content, and it'll give you the measure of all that. So it's a really great tool to have. So look into Hootsuite.
And you know that, and you know what, if you're not, and for those, that's another good point that you guys are talking about, the Ikkuma, though, because even with that, we're being tied up with so much social media that takes up so much of our time, we don't take the time necessary to really clear our minds out like we need to.
Mm-hmm. You need to declutter big time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's actually that's one of the tips, Nikki. So you've been cheating.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the tips is declutter your home and office and your mind. So we got to get rid of the
you got to delete some files.
Exactly. I have a little brain twister for you guys, and you can chew on this for a while.
Yeah.
But our motto truly is about bringing people up. So it's not necessarily competition, it's collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I like to say is you often hear the term, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Well, I love to flip that over, and I say, you're only as weak as your strongest link.
Oh.
Now, you're going to have to think about that for a while, but that essentially means that everybody's skills, what everybody's good at, they bring everybody up to that level, and that's truly what we believe. We're only as weak as our strongest link, and if people collaborate and we want to create forums, we want to use the community to actually evolve the project, and this isn't going to be a static item. This is going to be truly evolving. So I'd like you to just,
Well, I'm all about
that for a while. It's a bit of a thing.
Yeah, I think that's fabulous, and I'm an advocate of the power of numbers. I really believe in community building, and I just like to see it executed more consistently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
now,
I definitely hear you there, Gary.
Now, for everybody out, for all the listeners out there, I want you guys to give the spelling of Ikkuma for everybody out there. People who might have a pen and paper handy. If you don't, get a pen and paper handy. That way you can spell this correctly. So when you go look it up, because you know with the Google nowadays, everything will pop up if you get one letter wrong. So, so let them know how to spell it.
So it's Ikkuma. It's pronounced Ikkuma. I wouldn't expect anybody to be entirely knowledgeable of the Inuit language, but Ikkuma and .com. So you'll see our Twitter. Everything's going to come up, and we'd be proud to have people take a look at the site.
Hey, and definitely get it. Yeah, it sounds like a great program that everybody should get involved. Listen, everybody needs their body and their mind cleansed. That's the bottom line. And as everybody's out there listening, and hearing Nikki talk about it as well, and just, backing up and reiterating just how wonderful this works. And we all know how hard Nikki Clarke works. So if she can...
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, and it's a health discussion and not a vanity discussion. If you go and look at my Facebook pictures, maybe 2 months ago to now, you'll see the changes.
Okay,
the proof is in the pudding.
It is.
You look at the pictures and you'll see what happens.
It definitely is. I was going to actually mention that to you. I just didn't, because we talk all the time. But I was actually going to, I mean, I don't know. I didn't expect anything less from you, so I guess that's why I didn't say it. But I noticed it. It definitely works out. So. Yeah. Well. All
right. Well, Gary, it's been a pleasure. Chatting with you. I always learn so much from you, and I don't know. I just think you're awesome.
Well, I can't say enough, Keith and Nikki, for your graciousness in having me on. I love talking about it, as you can probably tell. I'm a fairly passionate guy, and like I said, this is my life. So hopefully, no, I'm not saying hopefully, we will make an incredible impact, and I can't wait for this to take off.
Yeah, and look,
and thanks again, guys. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Look,
you're very welcome.
Everybody out there, make sure you get involved too. I know, as a matter of fact, Nikki, I'm gonna find out through you, because myself and as well as a few people around me too could really use this program. There are a lot of things coming up in your future. Everybody out there, I want you all to take this seriously, because look, today, or especially tomorrow, is the first day of the rest of your lives. Number one, so it's never, so it's never too late. And if we can get our thoughts and our minds together and clear process, we all have busy schedules coming up. I know I do. So, Nikki, I'm definitely going to be looking out through this, looking for this program through you, just to deal with the mind. And one more thing before we get out of here. This will also, like you spoke about different products, different chemicals that are in products. This program will also help us to avoid some of these things possibly, or at least know how to not inhale too much, or just be cautious of what we take in, right?
Yeah. Education is big.
Yeah. I guarantee, Keith, when you look at our toxin section, there's going to be so many things that you can easily change in your lifestyle. I'm talking just a decision. No effort, just a decision. And it's going to change your entire toxic load.
Okay.
So that's just one example. These things are doable. And to your point, tomorrow is the start of the rest of your life. And I guarantee, within 3 months, once we get the program fully done, in 3 months of you doing this, I guarantee your life is going to be transformed. And not only your life immediately, but the habits for the rest of your life. So it's an exciting time.
Oh, man. Sounds wonderful. Man. 2015 then. All right.
Well, I am excited for you. Got some more stuff for me. I'm waiting for that, Gary.
Yes, it's
continue this transformation and see what happens the next 4 to 6 weeks on what's going to happen. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Excellent.
Sounds great.
Well, thanks again, guys.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
And you're welcome here anytime. And look, maybe after that 6 weeks is up, or at some point in time, come back on and let us know, what's been going on out there with the rest of the world, and give us an update on how things are turning out with everybody.
Perfect.
That's a great idea. Okay.
Okay. All right, everybody.
Gary, again, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
everybody out there all across the land and all across the globe, make sure you go check out the website. I believe I'm spelling it right. It's IKKUMA to get involved with the product, support it, get your lives right. It's 2015. Help those New Year's resolutions to really come to life and stick to the plan and the program. Once again, we thank Gary LeBlanc for coming on today and talking to us. You're listening to Throwback Thursdays. Wait a minute. We got a song to play.
Oh, yeah, this is my song.
Before we get out of here, you want to? I tell you what, Gary. Are you able to? You live on the air. You're global right now. Would you like to do the host job and take us into this song?
You're in the host chair now, Gary.
Okay, great. Coming in live, well, not live.
Yeah, it's like no, you are. It's live. You are live.
I guess the song. I guess the song coming from, I believe, maybe around 1985. One of my favorite bands of the time.